Hello, this is Liminal Writing.
Welcome to our world where Ces and I have 10-minute timed writing sessions. And we typically have a list of trigger lines which we use to spark the inspiration. So from time to time, it would be either a response closer to the line, or it could deviate, but just serve as a way to
Bring
put
us to whatever space we
correct,
Okay.
correct.
So I come from a book that I had picked up on a retreat I did in Cornwall in 2023 because the author was based in Cornwall and grew up there or wrote books there anyway. And her name is Daphne Du Maurier.
What a lovely setting, eh? In
Yeah.
Cornwall. The line that we chose was, he rose from his chair and stood looking out of the window across the harbor. Memory was not so blunted after all.
That's from page 53 of Castle Door. Okay. Do you want to go first this time?
All right. I'll go.
He always makes me go first. Okay.
All right. We'll do
Go
this.
ahead.
The sea always calls out to me, a calming, cleansing presence. I watch the waters, tickle the sand, asking insouciantly, will you come with me? And the sand flirts back and says, and where will we go? Back and forth, I watch this play until my breathing slows down to their sway, and moments later, refreshed to where I once was and to where I need to go. How about you? Where did this line take you?
Okay. He rose from his chair and stood looking out of the window across the harbor. Memory was not so blunted after all. There were grasshoppers with body lengths that were bigger than my child hands, cassava plants that were taller than me, black-brown river that smelled of melted sugarcane refuse. I look across the flowing water and see an old tree that hovered over the riverside, its branches crooked and curved, its leaves playful and reaching thirstily downwards. Maybe I imagined it, but I remember seeing a colorful bird, watchful of gourami fish that managed to thrive in those murky waters. My memory of those years are blunted, I know so. And sometimes, as I try to go back and reach out to the little girl that was me, giving her hugs and telling her that she is now seen, that we are now in a safe place, decades away from the fright and the neglect and the hate. Sometimes when I do that, I try to seek other memories, details that would give me a brighter picture, a better sense of what else she lived through. But mostly there is just this little version of me, lost but gentle, melancholic but kind. And I tell her, it is okay. You had to forget to be able to carry on living. You had to numb yourself to endure each day and keep breathing. And so, even though our memory is blunted, that is okay. Well done, you. Well done, us. We did what we knew to survive.
Wow. So the line sparked from Cornwall brought you all the way to your childhood place.
Yes, because I was in Cornwall to do a week's retreat with my therapist and did a lot of life work. And I guess that is what came out of the writing. It was triggered by that line from the book. And I was describing my childhood backyard.
Yeah. When you said gurami, I was like, oh, I know
It's that
exactly
fish.
what
I
she's
don't know
talking
what to
about.
describe it. That's a kind of fish that grows in the rivers in the Philippines.
It's a small one and it's translucent, right? Almost translucent gurami. Am
But
I
it
right?
has a lot of no. That's like it looks like tilapia, but has more thorny,
Ah, then okay.
more.
So that I have a different one.
I think.
Okay.
But I want to go back to what you wrote. Because
Mm.
what is that? You described the wave. I don't know how you use what line you used to describe the in out flow of the wave.
Oh,
Yeah,
about the waters tickle the sand,
and then
and then the sand
there was
flirts back and says, "This, where will we go?" And then
that
back
back.
and forth. I watch this play until my breathing slows to their sway.
I think it was a podcast or a breathing guide I was listening to. It's meditative and
Yeah.
or stimulates the vagus nerve.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like you almost breathe like the waves, almost the sound of that
Yes.
actually
Yeah.
stimulates that whole
Hmm.
parasympathetic.
Correct. Yes, part of our parasympathetic system and
What
helps us.
can you explain the paras?
It's a part of the brain that helps us be centered in understanding, am I in the fight, flight, or freeze system? So in the parasym system, that's a way for us to center and calm
It helps
ourselves.
relax
Yes.
and
Yeah.
conserve our energy, right?
Yeah. And so you're being very present
So it's like
when you
liminal writing because it happens without conscious thought.
well, we write and we create, so that's
Is it coming
conscious.
from that space? Anyway, I'm just trying to make connections. I'm being crazy. Okay, but maybe it's connected. And then
Mhm.
if you do that kind of with your breathing, I think it brings you to that space of relaxation.
Yes. Yeah. And so one of the exercises for activating our parasympathetic system is that you breathe through one nostril and then exhale through
Yes,
one. So
yes.
you hold the breath. So you inhale on 4 and then hold on 7 and then exhale on 8. Some people do it like kind of in a square, meaning it's like 4, 4, 4
Yes.
together. But some
Wow.
people do a little bit longer. So you inhale on 7, hold for 4, and then exhale on the 8, on in 8 counts.
Mhm, mhm. What happened was the trigger was actually a line that described a character in the book, and then looking out the window of the harbor. And I guess both of us, it triggered images of water.
Water.
But
Yeah.
in my case too, it kind of from that water image came the memories of my childhood.
Yeah.
And for those who haven't listened to us in the past, I am a survivor of child sexual abuse. And this memory of the images in my backyard was where I was accompanied by water with this river there, but also because I had a view of it. One of my safest spaces was the top of a guava tree. I would climb up the guava tree because I felt I was alone there. No one could reach me there. It was
Mm.
my space. But
Yeah.
at the same time, that gave me a view because I was hovering over the back garden, which kind of goes on a, what do you call it? The land goes downwards.
Okay, like a hill, a
There's
slope
a
down.
slope towards the river. And so there's of flat land where we plant stuff, include vegetables mostly.
Ah,
And so my view would be that, and then beyond that would be the river, and beyond the
okay.
river would be the other side of the river bank where there was a tree there. I remember like a hanging tree, like a willow. And then the river had a funny smell because across the river would be the sugarcane refinery.
Henry?
Yeah. So
Oh,
that was the memory. At
mm,
that stage when we wrote this. Because oh, by the way, because Lee and I have been reading also back from because we started
mm.
writing in 2020, 21.
2020.
And
2020.
we
Mhm.
have so much material. So like for this one, we said let's choose something that we wrote back then.
Yeah.
That trigger line, what we picked. We haven't looked back at it since, so this is all like fresh to look at. But I know that when I wrote this, I just come from
That
Cornwall
trip. Yeah.
and that life work. So this brings this whole thing of what were safe spaces to me then, and reminding the child that I was
Yeah.
that I am now in a safe space. Because as a survivor, you sometimes go into there are triggers,
Yeah.
sometimes just unexpected triggers and quite
Yeah.
random, quote unquote. But it makes you anxious and feel like you have this flashback of a feeling that's
Yeah.
not really about the now. triggers
Ah,
something from the past. So it's always
yes.
needing to remind yourself now that I am an adult now. I can
Mhm.
take more control of situations, and I am in a safe space. No, it doesn't come instinctively. The instinct would be to be that child that
That's
was
right.
frightened
Yeah.
and threatened and abused, but you have to keep grounding yourself to the now. And again, back to the breathing should help with that too. But sometimes when you're in kind of a panic mode, it doesn't really become instinctive.
Mm.
So this writing was a good reminder for me too.
And
It is
so the feeling as an adult now of caring for that kid and just making sure that she knows the young Ces feels safe carries on as part of your personal work, life work.
totally. And I don't know if I spoke about this in the podcast before, but one of the sessions we had was if you picture the child says,
Yeah.
what would you do? What would you tell her? Right? It would be to basically want to give her a hug and that to tell her we are now safe. You don't blame or don't feed on the self blame.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of that kind of work and it doesn't just disappear
Mm.
in a snap. I find that sometimes I have to remind myself that again.
Yeah.
Then also because I still have the tendency to well, you talked about what?
The fight, flight,
Fight,
and
flight.
freeze.
See, I was freeze. I sometimes find there's two. Well, sometimes it was fight was not one option. So it's
Yeah.
either I freeze and I'm just frozen. I'm just paralyzed. Don't know what to do with fright.
Yeah.
But also there was flight in the sense that the flight was about numbness, like almost being outside of my body and being an observer of what's happening.
Yes. Yeah.
I think there's still a tendency to be that sometimes. That's why, and I'm
Mm.
basically out of my body.
Yeah.
So I have that where something happens, even physically, that I only feel it days later,
And not in the moment.
not in the moment. For example, someone kind of did something that actually hurt me deeply.
Yeah.
I would go numb about it, and I wouldn't know how to respond. Days later, I would feel the impact, and suddenly I would feel depressed or just feel sad and deeply hurt. And then I realized it was from what happened 3 days a week before. Yeah.
And that action of getting hurt is not necessarily physical, but like
Mhm.
words as emotional.
Mhm. Emotional, situational, or somewhere a situation where you felt like you were exploited or abused in some way,
Mm.
verbally,
Yes.
emotionally, or whatever.
Yes.
There is still the tendency that I cannot identify that at that very moment. I
At the
just
moment.
something wrong and then or heavy or but I cannot even identify the feeling. I just cannot respond.
Yes. Mm.
Shrink. Those are the kind of continuing ways I try to evolve myself by being more in the moment, assuring myself that I'm an
Mm.
adult now, I'm safer. I'm not that child who was kind of frozen in fear and all that.
Yes.
It's continuing, and I don't know if any survivors might be listening to our podcast and can actually relate to that.
Yes.
But yeah, that is just what it is. See, it took us here
Yeah.
from the liminal
From
writing that started out from Daphne Du Maurier, who rose from his chair and stood looking out of the window across the harbor. Memory was not so blunted after all.
yeah.
So, possible trigger line that can help whoever's listening try out liminal writing and for 10 minutes write what just comes out. Anything,
Mhm.
nothing's not allowed.
That's
What?
true. Yeah.
Yeah, wherever it takes you.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
yours. The
Because
space is yours.
we're all unique that way, and it takes into account our past and present experiences. You can write something very
What?
personal, like what Ces
Yes.
did, autobiographical, or you could write about a scene that is a figment of your imagination, like where I got to.
Like Lee goes out in some poetry, or it can be prose, can be an essay, whatever,
Mhm.
or just babble. Who cares? It's your writing. It's your space. Claim it.
See you next time.
See you next time. Thank you.